This shot was very critical to us. We said to ourselves, how would a real cruise line today shoot a commercial? And this was a shot that we came up with, and what sort of culminated, brought everything together, was a James Horner score at this point, which just gives you that incredible sense of accomplishment and joy.
I wanted to give it an Irish sort of exuberance. I wanted to give the whole sailing on this ship this tremendous optimism. I didn't want to darken it. I didn't want to foretell anything. I wanted to bring a different kind of energy to the film. And I went home from that meeting and from seeing the movie and started doodling on themes. And I would say I had all the thematic stuff written within 25 minutes.
I mean, the section with James's music again is just so lyrical in how it's all put together.
And that's James actually playing the piano.
I'm not a very good pianist, and I played on the piano an approximation of Rose's theme that was probably 85% right. There were no wrong notes in it. It was just probably a little less fleshed out than somebody else might play it. But I played it very simply, and he put it into the sequence to see how it worked, and he loved it. So then comes the day to do the real thing, and I played it again. And whatever the formality was that I brought it the second time, he didn't find it at the same intimacy and gentleness, I guess, that the first one had. So we kept trying. We tried 2 or 3 times. He said, forget it, I'm just going to use the first one. And that's what we stuck with.
She goes on the boat.
It was a great advantage to me that we had as a tool, emotionally, the audience knowing the ending of the story, so that dramatically I can manipulate, and Jim can manipulate an audience into loving this couple, knowing, despite the audience, despite themselves, knowing they're falling for this couple, knowing that it's not going to end up well. And there's tremendous heartbreak and drama in that. And I used it to the hilt. And indeed, it is heartbreaking at the end. And I think part of the success of the film is that you're so drawn in at the beginning, even though you know it's a disaster story and you can't help yourself. I think that that's a wonderful piece of drama and a way to manipulate a story that we wouldn't have had going for us if everybody didn't know the ending.
Of course, this whole ending is transformed into the Celine Dion song. And as we move into the end credits, I think there's a story worth telling about James Horner and that song.
I had this girl Sissel singing all throughout the film, and I'd never seen the end of the film yet. Jim was still working it. I'd seen sketches, film sketches, roughly, and the whole thing from where Rose drops the stone into the ocean went through quite a lot of changes. We actually ended up scoring it, I think, 2 different ways. So I know what I've written collectively, and I'm looking for something to narrate the end of the movie and into the end credits. And we've gone through this cataclysm of emotions, and I've run out of instruments, quite honestly. What could I write that could possibly outdo what I've already done, or even complement what I've already done in a graceful, elegant way, and say all the things that people are feeling at this point in the movie? What could I do with an oboe and an orchestra? I mean, I basically was at a loss of how to make something that would mean anything to me. I'm sure to an audience it wouldn't matter, but to me, I needed something that propelled me one step deeper. And I knew Jim was dead set. We'd always talked about being dead set against songs and all of that stuff. He hates that stuff. So, unbeknownst to Jim, it started to formulate in my head the best way to end this movie was with a cue, not a song, but a cue with a woman's voice in it, and make it absolutely intimate with words, because I didn't think anything else would matter. It could be you could have taken any music from any place in the movie and stuck it in, and it would have narrated people walking out of the theater. What I wanted to do is not let go once the movie ended. And I had to do that very intimately. And as I started thinking about it, I started doodling around with the themes into something somebody would sing. And then it sort of evolved into something that was rather singable. But still, I didn't mention this to Jim, because he was dead set against song. And I was afraid as soon as the song ghost raised his head, suddenly every everybody out of the woodwork that would be descending on Jim with songs they wanted him to hear, and it would have been a disaster. So by myself, I wrote this song and got Will Jennings to write words to it, who is a poet. And we had this song that we both liked. And I had known Celine Dion for a long time, and I went to see her she was performing at Caesar's Palace, and I explained to her this was all surreptitious. No one can know I'm here talking to you. And she loved the song. I played it for her and sang it to her in my awful voice, but she got it. And she said, I want to sing a demo of this. And I said, gee, that's great. All right. So we went to New York a week and a half later. Meanwhile, Jim knows nothing about this. In fact, he complained, where were you yesterday? I tried to get in touch with you, kind of thing, and I was, of course, out of town. I was in Las Vegas. I went to New York for a few days, and Celine recorded this song. She had some of her handlers there, and I thought it was just going to be Celine and my prepared sort of accompaniment track, which I'd done on synthesizer for her. And there were, of course, 6 or 7 Sony executives sitting there. And she started to sing this song, and she was so into it. It just brought tears to your eyes. It was just so, she was so into it, and it was quite amazing. I'm sure people go through that a lot in the songwriting world, but I had never been through that. And we had this great demo on tape, and still I told her and her husband Renee, I can't play this yet. I just have to keep it here in my pocket until the right time. And I ended up, I came back to LA, and I walked around with this DAT in my pocket for like 3 or 4 weeks. Every time I went to see Jim, which was every 2 days, still playing my music, on the piano, waiting for just the right moment. And I remember he showed me a shot, which was great, a final of Rose, the old lady, first starts narrating about the linen and the tables, and the camera goes past her, and you see the ship lit down deep. And the camera starts to go up the ship, and as it goes up the ship, it sort of morphs and colors itself to Titanic being at anchor in Southampton. It was stunning, absolutely stunning. You just look at a thing like that, and it's just unbelievable to look at, and obviously he was very pleased. So I was thinking, maybe now's a good time. So I said, Jim, can I play you something? And he said, sure. And I said, it's just some ideas, so don't take it too seriously. So we play this DAT, and it's Celine singing the Titanic theme, for want of a better expression, with words. And he says, this is Celine, isn't it? Celine Dion. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, this is a song, right? And I said, yeah. And he didn't say anything more, and he listened to it, and then he said, this is great. And he played it again, and he played it for his daughter, and he said, this is great. I said, so you like the idea, because you and I have always talked about no songs. And we tempted into the movie, and it was like magic.